and there we go. It's recorded along with the other recordings from the past events for the Parent Ed series, and this will be on the student services. Oh, this will be on the YouTube page for the ISC. As this event is being recorded, we just ask that you respect our presenters. Please do not audio or video record the presentation. And after our speakers have concluded, well, actually today is really more of a conversation, but just please be respectful of each other. And if you have any questions, please feel free to either send us something if you want to do it anonymously to me or Robin, or you can, raise your hand and ask yourself. But just remember, it's a public forum. We want to respect your privacy. So please make sure that you keep any personal information out of it. And you also may submit any questions that you have directly to us, or to us through the chat. So tonight is a very exciting event because it is about our middle school transition. So we are super excited to have parents on the phone participating or on the line participating who have children that have just gone through the middle school transition from elementary to middle. So I am going to just read a list of their names, and then Robin will be asking questions like a host. Okay. So first, I want to say thank you so much. I want to welcome from BC Middle School, Bernadette Hitt and Beverly Jogan. And from BlackRock, Jessica Goodman, and Courtney is not here, correct?
Right.
Okay. And then from Welsh Valley, Jennifer Maloro. So I just wanted to say thank you, moms, very much for sharing with us your things that you found out in your time and your children. And I'm going to pass this over to Robin.
Hello, all. Welcome. I would like to ask each of our panelists to tell us one or two tips that you think most helped your student or yourself acclimate, or you wish you knew coming into 5th grade. And whoever would like to start off is unmute yourself and go.
I can go. Welsh Valley. I don't know. I think one of the things that I impressed, my son's name's Luke, so I heard Fur, that's his name. I think the most important thing, and I'm also a guidance secretary, that I noticed that a lot of parents call about nervous kids. And what I more hear than anything is it's more the parent than the kid. So I felt if I turned it around over the summer beforehand, I said, let's just, prepare. You're going to be good at this. You're going to get to go to different classes. So I really put the excitement back into it. So when he got on first day, he just loved it. He loved it from the jump. So I thought that was really important to put a positive spin on all the nervousness and just take it away and just say, don't think like that. You'll be fine. It's good. You have your buddies from Belmont Hills or whatever their elementary school was. They have a lot more resilience than I think sometimes the parents push forward. So that's just my personal observation, but I really do believe that the more you make yourself nervous and the kids hear it, then they're going to be nervous. So that was my big push. And with Welsh Valley, because like the other schools, Welsh Valley, you have to cross through the outside to get to a lot of the rooms. So I just said, you'll like the changing because you get to get outside, and my kid runs hot. So I thought that would be a little nice little thing, and meet new people. I always thought that was fun when I was younger, that I got to meet more kids. So those were my two big ones.
Thank you, Jen. Ladies, we will seriously take it back old school and start calling on people.
I'm happy to go next.
Top of my screen, that's the name I'm calling.
I can go next. So my daughter goes to BC, and I think at least at BC, what they did is they took the kids in around like this time and brought them to the school. and they got to navigate the school. So for my daughter, the big thing was like navigating this new environment, and that kind of scared her. So that was one good thing. So if your school does that and your child misses it, then I would definitely say that at the end of August, when they invite the kids in, go to that and make sure you're in town for that. Because for my daughter, it was all about the navigation and figuring out where I'm going and moving to different classrooms, because that's the part that's new. So it was just the new environment, getting used to it and understanding the lay of the land, really.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I do think that they do that. I feel like I remember when Victoria, she's in seventh now at BC, but I remember she had missed something, but they do invite them to come back right before school starts and they can go to their homeroom, correct? And actually go and visit the different classrooms as well.
Yes, yes. So
Thank
they
you
give
for
them
sharing
two
that.
opportunities. So make at least one of them. And of course, the one that's closer to the start of the school year is also important, just because over the summer they forget that first visit that they did during school. So we're typically on vacation as a family during that period of time. We made a point to come back because we knew that was a point of nervousness for her.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, they ran the bus schedule and they would pick up the kids, and the kids had like 1 or 2 hours at the middle schools, and they ran their schedules. So they had their schedules, and so they knew room 5 was first and then 7 was next, and they actually navigated the system that
Yep.
way.
And I think too, I think the other thing that was good about that was that they actually go to their homerooms so they can see who's in their homeroom and then who's in their classes too, which I think kind of eases some of the tension around the unknown.
And I don't think those dates have been announced yet, but they're typically the last week in August, or the maybe the Friday before the last week of August. So like the
Yeah, I think you're
and
right.
a half before the end of August. But it's not the beginning of August, right? It's always at the
Correct.
end.
It was
Yeah.
definitely the end.
I can go next.
Hi, Jessica. Yes.
Hi. My son is at Black Rock Middle School. One of the things that I think a lot of parents were concerned about is fifth graders, the little ones, being in school with the like seventh and eighth graders. And I can say at Black Rock, I mean, they're together on the bus, but the older kids sit in the back of the bus. The younger kids are in the front of the bus. There's been way more drama with the other fifth graders than there has been with any. I have never heard a single word about seventh or eighth graders from the bus. And they like do not see each other. Their lunches are different. Their schedule is different. There is zero drama or issues with any of the older kids. My son has like a mentor from eighth grade maybe, and they see each other once or twice a week in a very specific, like they choose the kids who are doing that. I don't know if that is for all kids or just like a subset. So that was something that I think has not been an issue at all that I have seen. The other thing comes from my son has an IEP, and he is in the ISL class every day. I think that's the instructional support lab, maybe is the terminology. If anybody's kid has an IEP, just knowing that moving from elementary to middle school, they don't necessarily handpick the teachers the same way. So I wouldn't say that his teacher's fit has been as good as it was in elementary school, and that hoping next year they will know him better. But the ISL teacher is our main contact for managing everything. And the one that we have is absolutely fantastic. And so if anybody's kid has an IEP, your ISL teacher, I think, is the main resource that you will want to be in touch with. And I hear wonderful things about all the school counselors as well.
Thank you for bringing that up, Jessica, because I mean, at least at BC, it's the same way. Now, my daughter's seventh grade, but still, like they travel with that ISL teacher, and anytime you've got any sort of, it doesn't even have to be challenges, but for whatever reason you want to kind of meet and partner with your teachers, you work with your ISL and they kind of coordinate that. So Thank you for bringing that up. Dina.
All right,
Oh.
Beverly?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. I have a fifth grader at BC. I have the kid who has always had a really hard time with transitions, has always been terrified of the new class every year, was still in fourth grade. At the end of fourth grade, he still got lost trying to find the bathroom from the library. So like my strategy for all of that was like to tell him 1,000 times over the summer that if he got lost, nobody was going to be mad at him. Nobody was going to care. Somebody would help him find where he needed to go, and it was all going to be fine because he was the kid who would cower in a corner somewhere because he would be too upset with himself for messing something like that up. Then we went and we practiced. And so like we also made sure that we were there that whole like week, that last week in August, sort of pending when they were going to allow the kids to come in. And there must have been 2 times that I took him in that like, and I know everybody can't take off of work and I know it's not possible, but I also saw older siblings from the neighborhood taking around the kids to show them where, like there were 8th graders from BC who were walking around with a group of neighborhood kids showing them where their lockers were and all that sort of stuff. We practiced lockers. I bought one of those things over the summer so he could practice 1,000 times. So taking away the things that were going to make him nervous on that first week. And then like when we went to the school, I had his schedule there and we ran the building and found every room multiple times in order, like to make sure that he knew where he was going. So he went to those first couple of days of school and he was like, I was showing everyone else where to go. And I was teaching the other kids how to use their locker. And he was so proud of himself. And I feel like that like really, helped him set things off on the right foot. And, coming from him being the super really nervous kid, they provided ample opportunities for us to try to help get them off on the right foot. And he was really excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also remember and you can let me know if that happened this year too, that I feel like they spend like the first week, like really like having the students get to know each other. Like they do a lot of team building type exercises, right? And it's more focused on socialization versus like diving into academics. Did you guys find that was the same thing this
Yeah,
year?
100%. They really like kept them with their sort of homerooms or teams, their 2 main teachers that they have. They got to know those teachers really well. They just did fun projects. We got pictures of them doing like art things in the hallway and team building and just like, yeah, really relaxed this first week or 2.
Awesome. Thank you.
Someone raised their hand. Sorry. No. So there is a question in the chat. And the question is there a scheduled visit the second to last week of August, but only one? Guys, do you remember how many visits there were this current year?
I
Or-
think that the kids this coming up, I think it's actually either this week or next week, the elementary kids visit their middle school during the day.
Mhm.
And towards the end of the summer, they have a open house, but I think that's just for new people to the area. And then there's the follow through where the kids get to go on the bus and go for a couple hours. So I don't know if there's too many extra opportunities other than that.
So do you think that those 2 visits, because there's the bus where everyone is, all 5th graders would be on the bus and running their schedule, I think it's for 2 hours. And I know that was the week before school started.
Yeah, it's like
And
the
there is,
23rd.
yeah.
I have
Yeah.
29th and 30th from my calendar last year. It
Yeah, I
was
thought
back
there
to
were
back.
2.
There was
Okay.
2 events. Yeah.
Because then there's an additional day where as a parent or guardian, you can just bring your children in during a certain time. And I believe that there were maybe 7th or 8th grade students as well as staff kind of directing people and letting people run your schedule, because the students will be given their schedule in August. So they'll know what what classes they have and their teachers' names, but I don't believe they'll be given that until August. Um,
I think
And
that's what
That
Beverly
sounds
was
right.
just talking about with those 2 dates.
and do you guys remember when they actually announced those dates last year?
It wasn't until August.
That's what that's what I remember the prior year, but I didn't know if it had changed. So, and then someone asked, how are 504s managed with all of the different teachers? Now, I know you, Jessica, you talked about an IEP. Does anybody else have a student with a 504?
I mean, I can talk to it only because I schedule them. So probably a good person to know. We usually typically schedule them during the period that teacher has off. So if it's like a second period for a fifth grader and sixth period or something, we usually like to schedule it around that so that we're not constantly filling classes with substitutes.
For the meetings, right? But like, so those would be during the day for a
Yeah.
504 annual meeting. And then how does the 504 kind of get disseminated out to all of the different teachers that the student has?
We have a SharePoint that once it's uploaded, it gets immediately, it already transfers in all the teachers that they have that year. So they get it right when it gets uploaded. And if it's a transition year from 4th to 5th, usually it's already a discussion because counselors are probably already starting to talk to 4th grade already.
Yeah, and I think that my older one has a 504, but it didn't start until later in the middle school years. But I think that there is a transition meeting sometime in the first few months with anybody with a support plan, and like the school counselor, and you review kind of the plan with the transition so that you're connected to the school counselor, and then it gets shared to all the teachers. I don't know the specifics of how it gets communicated, but I'd also say, like, talk with the teachers. Say, my kid has a 504. This is what we're really focusing on, kind of making sure that you build a relationship with the teacher as much as you can, and just share your perspective, because there's only, the 2 teachers primarily. So that's really kind of the 1 or 2 people that you would want to most, at back to school night, say hi to the teacher and, share any information that you want to, or when teachers reach out. And a lot of teachers will send like a welcome before the school year starts. You could, kind of share something about your kid then as well.
So there's a question about 5th graders switching classes and using lockers. Can we all talk about how either your students' materials are stored during the year, and how kids move within the classroom settings? Beverly, you want to go first? It looks like you had your hand.
I did, because it actually is a really good question. So at BC, they do use lockers. They basically just dump their stuff at the beginning of the day. But like my son's clarinet doesn't even go in there. He leaves it outside his homeroom. Like there's apparently a pile of instruments on instrument day. Like, and that's just what they do because that's easier for them than going back and forth to the lockers. They carry their Chromebooks all day with them. And they have a morning binder and an afternoon binder. And I wanted to raise my hand because with this question, I feel like these 5th grade teachers did such a good job of getting the kids organized for, like, the kids that are a misfit of like Tasmanian devil papers everywhere. Like they do such a good job of keeping them organized with their binders and their folders and making sure they know what their assignments are. And like they really, I feel like, have trained them well to keep themselves organized. So they have their morning binder and their afternoon binder, and then they know when to, switch from one to the other and carry that to the next group. I don't know if there's other things, and then they just go back to their locker at the end of the day.
All right, anybody else want to share with their experience? Jessica.
So very different at Black Rock. There are no lockers. There are cubbies that I think there is not a single cubby for each kid, but cubbies are kind of for extra things, I think, and then they keep most things in their desks. At Black Rock, there's 4 classrooms in a pod, which I don't know if you guys have seen the school yet, but there's like a section for each team. And then there's 4 classrooms. And so there's only like a little central area with some tables and stuff in the middle. So they don't go very far for like between their main classes. They'll go a little further for like for their specials and their language maybe, but they stay within one little area for their, math and science and social studies and ELA. And so they just kind of go back and forth, and I think they take their bags and they keep their Chromebooks in them. And I'm not 100% sure on how that exactly works. I would say we have not had great experiences, but I don't know if that's in terms of the supported organization. It's fine. I don't know if that's my kid is worse at organizing than many, but it's just a really different kind of layout and experience, I think, than the other middle schools with no lockers. So you don't have to worry about combinations or anything.
Do you want to talk about how Welsh Valley's locker situation is?
They do have lockers. I think they're not allowed to keep the book bags with them all day. So they have to put them in first thing in the morning and then just keep their Chromebook and whatever book they need for the next class. Some of it's a little challenging only because in the beginning, his homeroom and the languages are kind of through the courtyard and on the other side. So he had to run a little bit, but they're fine. I think they all make it within, I guess it's 5 minutes between each class. So
Then you
there's
think
not a lot of time to go back to their locker.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, do kids go back to their locker in between classes to
No, only if it's
switch out?
yeah, if it's convenient, but if they know they can't, like from a homeroom to a language, they'd have to have it ready. So they get pretty familiar with their schedule right away where they can fit in the locker, because some of the teachers, they mark them late if they're a minute late, so they have to get there on time.
Bernadette, do you have things to add about that with BC?
No, I mean, Beverly covered it pretty well. My daughter's experience mirrors what everything that she said.
And I think that's the biggest difference between Black Rock and BC and Welsh Valley, is that I think the kids pretty much keep their backpacks with them the whole day. Because they're the cubby situation, they're shared. Would you say that is true, Jessica, for your child?
Yes, that I believe that is true, but they're not moving far. So like worried about heavy backpacks carrying with them all day, they are not going far.
And I don't know if your experience is the same as mine, is that my child doesn't have a lot of textbooks. So it's really just everything's on the Chromebook. So they have a Chromebook and some notebooks and binders, but
Yeah.
there's not a lot of heavy textbooks like when we maybe went to school coming home.
Yeah, 0 textbooks, a Chromebook, a notebook, a folder, and 1 day a week for study skills special is a binder. That's it.
So I just want to add on to the no textbook thing. So I have a daughter that has an IEP, and like for math, whatever, like I want to be able to partner with the teacher. So there are textbooks that are available. Like if you need one, for whatever reason, you can ask, but you're right, they don't send them home. And even with their notebooks, they sometimes don't send them home either. Like they take their notes and then they're supposed to leave them in the classroom, so they don't always bring those home. But if you do need a textbook, you can talk to the teacher, talk to the ISL, and then get that for your child.
I just want to clear up a couple things. There were some questions about, someone was asking what an IEP was. Sorry, we're using the lingo. It's individualized education plan, and it's for students that qualify for special education services, and the actual document that's their individual plan is called an IEP. And a 504 plan is a student that it's just another level of service. So a student that may not have direct educational impact, but needs accommodations throughout the school day for, for a health reason or for
Other
for
learning needs or
other learning needs that don't go to the necessity of having to have an individual education plan to access education. There's a question about what about lunch bags at Black Rock? Is there a central place they drop them off at, or do they carry them as well?
I think they carry them. I think a number of people buy lunch. They do kind of say in the morning if they're going to buy, I believe. And then they have them, either it stays in their cubby and they take it to lunch. I can check if we want. But I think it kind of stays with them. Yeah, there's no like, they don't collect them up and then give them out at lunch or anything.
Is that the same for BC and Welsh Valley, guys?
I think BC, they put them in like a bin, and then as they're on their way to lunch, they pick them up, but they don't keep them in their locker.
I don't know what he does with his lunch pail.
Mhm.
Oh, you get to go to your locker at lunch.
There we go. See the answer.
Okay, he's right here.
Oh, we got
Um,
real time, ladies and gentlemen. Who
yeah.
knew?
A real life fifth grader. So we have some questions about Chromebooks. So I'll kind of read, they're kind of related. Do they have the Chromebooks all day? And what are they used for, and how secure are they? Like, are they able to search the internet? Who would like to go for that one?
Start with that. So my understanding is they do have the Chromebooks all day. They do also, like if there's indoor recess, the kids do get recess every day at BC before lunch, but if there's indoor recess, they have the Chromebooks with them. And I think they can do searches, they can find little ways to play video games and stuff like that, if they desire. In school, they use them for like my son has made little PowerPoint presentations in his sewing class. There was like a how to, thread a needle video that he watched, like things like that. They do some testing on it. My son actually has a 504 because he gets migraines when he spends too much time on a screen. So he doesn't do testing on them. He gets paper tests as, but I do know that like for ELA and for math, there is, a fair amount of like testing that is done on Chromebooks. There's a math program called IXL that they use that just in the middle of the year, this year, we started getting it, as kind of like homework sometimes. That is kind of the extension of what Dreambox is in elementary school, that they're doing sort of like, I don't know what the right word for it is, but the math style learning that it'll adjust to what the kid is inputting, so that they're learning at the right level, essentially. So that's the deal with the Chromebooks. He comes home with his Chromebook every day and we charge it and then he takes it back to school. He has had very little homework on it. And we kind of try to avoid it because it gives him headaches. So he's pretty good about avoiding it on his own, but he does say that other kids are playing video games and stuff like that, sometimes.
Anybody else have anything to jump in on that with?
I think kids are savvy, so they kind of do find some workarounds. I do know the teachers try their best. And because I work in Bala Cynwyd and my son's in Welsh Valley. In Bala Cynwyd, I do know the 5th grade teachers like to not have them on as much. So they do paper for projects and math so I do know they try to not have it every single period. And then my son does seem to use it a lot at Welsh Valley for language and math. They go on it a lot for that.
Yeah, and I would just say there's my daughter has had practically no homework on the computer. So she brings it home, she charges it, but no homework except for presentations on Canva or something like that. But math, English, everything is done on paper, which I kind of like.
I don't know how much of it is different by teacher and how much of it is different by
Yeah.
school. We have 60 minutes of IXL math each week. And that's been for a while, probably not the whole year, but other math papers for homework. There's been issues around computers and gaming and really trying to keep like lockdown on the extra tabs and extra sites that the kids can find their ways around. So I think they do try and limit the time on the computer, especially when it's not particularly to, learning tasks.
Yeah, and kids don't bring their computers to lunch. And the district does have, I will call it a governor, where it limits the sites, like, you can't go on Netflix per se, and watch movies that, they do have locks on it, and child safety, like searches aren't allowed in, that you would normally not want children to search for topics. So we are getting questions about electives. So how do you sign up for electives, or what elective choices do students have in 5th grade? Would like to talk about
Have they
electives.
not talked about that with class choices? Do they mean electives like other activities or electives like in the class choices?
I think what they mean, electives like music or choir, or what are the choices the kids get to actually make when they enroll in 5th grade?
I don't think there's too many choices. I do think they have to pick one language, and that stays with them, I think, through middle school.
Or through 6th grade? I think they can change for 7th and 8th.
Wasn't sure about that. And then they can choose, like, if they play an instrument, they could either play the instrument during chorus or band, or my son didn't play an instrument, so he chose general music. And then I think they get assigned, gym class, and then they rotate STEM, art, and the other things.
There's study skills and library also, I think.
Mm-hmm. For 5th graders, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on electives like that, guy?
I think there's like standard, unless your kid has a particular different schedule for some reason. My son with the IEP goes to ISL during a block every day, so he had to choose some other things. And if your kid is in challenge, that replaces one of the electives as well.
Okay. See, there's lots of questions, sorry. Do Chromebooks go home? I think we answered this. They do. Someone's asking if you can opt out of Chromebooks from coming home.
I don't think so.
We were specifically told they had to come home to be charged at home. And so we just created a charging station that is, they don't really have access to.
So let's talk a little bit about after-school activities. So the questions include what are some of the activities and clubs after school? And then is 2 working parents outside of the home concerned about the lack of aftercare with a 2:30 dismissal. So what is the frequency? When does clubs and activities start for 5th graders? Who has thoughts? Any of your students in after school activities?
5th grade can do track, I believe. They can run for track. And they can't participate in the
No.
other sports though.
I think they can't go track. They can only do cross country
Oh,
in the
cross
fall.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's little clubs that they can join, like we have Geekery and Gaming and the library, and so there are a lot of, which is probably per school, they have different ones at each school. So I think once you have one of those clubs, they can join them. But
How did your son find out about what clubs were offered at Welsh Valley?
they're on the Lower Merion portal is a really good resource, honestly, for new incoming 5th grade teachers. If you go to, lowermerion.org, it has all the resources for parents. It has the clubs, the schedules, and even if, they may be coming from a different district and they have an older kid that could do a sport. So they list it all.
And at BC, they did a day where the kids could go learn about all the different activities and then decide which ones they wanted to join. I think the trick is for working parents that want that activity time so that the kids are at school until I believe it's like 4:30. It's piecing it together because I don't think all of the activities go throughout either, the quarter or the year. So that's the trick. And some of the, high demand ones fill up quickly. So I recommend going to that portal and checking them out and making sure you have a game plan.
At BC, what are the high demand clubs that are difficult to get into?
That I don't know. My daughter only did one because she has other activities, so I'm not 100% sure.
I think they also announce them in an assembly. Like they do them over the announcements, but they also have like an activity fair type thing. Is that what you were talking about, Bernadette?
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, they have an activity fair for the kids to kind of understand what all the different activities are.
Jessica, what was your experience with after school activities or the offerings?
It does not feel super organized. There are a number of kind of activities that are either sort of pop-ups or sporadic. My son did a Lego League, like he did in 4th grade. And then he also, well, he didn't do it this year, but they do have Reading Olympics. They have some other things. Some of it is communicated on Schoology. It's really not super easy to find out about what the activities are. I don't find Schoology particularly easy to navigate. And that's kind of where allegedly everything is located. Later in the year, there were some like pop-up sport things where there was like a week of track and a week of soccer, and they didn't really communicate that until the first week had already started. So it's not been like, I think that is an area of improvement. I don't know how much is because the school is still quite new, and they're still kind of getting things rolling in terms of organization and communication.
Yeah, I mean, I can just speak so my kids are both at Black Rock and they participate in a couple different, both sports that are, 7th and 8th grade offerings, but also, 5th and 6th grade. And my experience has been that even if he or she were to join a club, it's not guaranteed that they're going to meet every week, just like everyone was kind of speaking to. In addition, there really isn't a club that's meeting multiple days a week besides sports. And until 7th grade, your child's really not eligible for any sport except cross country, which is only during the fall season. Even with that, at least at Black Rock, because of the limited field space, they may not practice every day of the week, and they almost never practice on Friday. There's very little activities that I've seen offered on Fridays at the schools. And I guess that leads us right into a really good question, was how does the second bus run or after school bus run work for your students? How have your students access to that?
I think for BC, there's 2 buses. And you have to, once you get on the bus, you have to tell the driver where your stop is. And
Yeah,
that's-
at
It's as simple
BC,
as that.
at some point, they told us or the kids or something, this is bus 1 and this is where it goes. This is bus 2 and this is where it goes. And there's one that is at 4:30 p.m. that takes everybody home. And then there's a late bus at 5:30 p.m. that takes everyone home. And my kid did the school play, and there were some days that he was there until 5:30, and then took the late bus home after that. But yeah.
I think at Black Rock there might be like 6 buses because they span so much more. They're different runs than the morning buses, than the regular school buses. So there's like 30 stops per bus, but they don't stop everywhere if they don't have a kid going to that. And the bus stop might not be the same. Our bus stop is actually different for the late bus than it is, but they will send out a list of each route and the bus stops that are on that route. Getting on the bus is very easy. Everybody pours out the same doors. Everybody gets on their labeled bus.
Is it the same way at Wash Valley as well?
My son never took the late bus, but I mean, I know they have them. But yeah, he gets the bus in the morning and it comes right to his driveway. Because if your house doesn't have a sidewalk, I think maybe somewhere, so he gets picked up right at the bottom of our driveway.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak to the late, but I know they have them.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with the late bus is that they will post the list of, like in Black Rock, they have 5 or 6 buses, and it'll be like R1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they give a list of all of the cross streets that they stop at. And I also know that if your stop isn't close to your home, you can just talk to transportation and they will add a stop to your bus, because they won't list every single stop that they have on that. It's just kind of the closest cross street. And you tell the bus driver, what your normal morning or afternoon bus stop is, and then they'll stop in close approximation. Right. So somebody's asking about when schedules are distributed, and I think we talked about that we think they were sent out in August last year.
It's about the same time as the elementary schools get them. Yeah.
And they're asking if they're mailed a hard copy. Yeah, I don't think so either. I think you have to log into your parent portal to pull it. I think on the first day, did your kids get a schedule from their homeroom teacher? If they hadn't brought one. And then.
And guidance is a good option in all the schools. So if your kid happens to forget it, I mean, the kids come to me a lot during the first couple of weeks, and I will print it anytime, anywhere. So they lose it or get misplaced, or I think like another mom was saying that their son would get lost, but anytime go to guidance, you can get your schedule.
And then someone again asked about dates when the parents and students can visit and walk through and see where classes and lockers are. And we think those are the last 2 dates, the last week of August. And I think they'll announce them sometime over the summer, what the specific dates and times are.
Yeah, last year it was the 29th of August, so it's pretty late.
Yeah, and I also think that, and someone just put in the chat, a date for when one of the elementary schools was going to visit the middle school. So this spring, last year, during the spring, your 4th graders would have visited again the middle school, and gone through and seen all of the different classes and areas. Someone's asking, is there recess at Black Rock? Do you want to talk about that, Jessica?
Yeah, there is recess at Black Rock. There's a courtyard area in the middle of the school that's outside that there's no like playground or really fields that they run around on, but they're outside. They can hang out a little bit. There's some maybe Foursquare kinds of games or something they can play. There might be a basketball court in there. But they get a little bit of movement and free time in there. It's different than elementary school.
What about at Black Rock or BC and Welsh Valley? What does the recess look like, or recess space look like?
Welsh Valley has a lot of space. And then they do, if the grass is too wet, sometimes they'll do blacktop, which is just on the hard surfaces. And rain, they do go to the cafeteria, I think, and sometimes they watch a movie or they go back to their classroom.
Yeah, BC, they go outside if they can, and there's lots of space there. So, but it's a very short period of time, isn't it? It's like 20 minutes, I think.
I think it's 15 or 20 minutes right
Yeah.
before lunch, and the fifth grade lunch is at 10:30.
Yes, really.
Yeah, so they do get a break and they do get, to move around. Also, the BC kids sometimes, if it's nice weather, can take turns eating outside as well, because there are tables and like benches outside.
I know at Black Rock, the kids can choose to eat outside at any time, and they can also choose. They just have one block of time that's recess and lunch, so they can spend as little or as much time as they have at recess, or they can go out before and then get lunch, or get lunch and then go outside. There's a question about what are the on-ramps for foreign language if my son starts with a reading block support that time block, then wants to transition to Spanish partway through the year? Anyone have any experience with not starting with a language in the beginning of the year?
I don't know if that's possible. That would be a really individual question to ask, ask
Counselor.
a counselor or even
Definitely.
one of the assistant principals might be a good resource for that as well.
Do any of you know if there's the NOW NOW program at Black Rock? Has anyone heard of that? At any of the schools?
What is that?
I mean, it's just an acronym, NOL. I've never heard of that either.
We had it, but I think we did away with it. I think it was a couple years ago. So I don't think
What was it? What's the acronym for?
I don't even remember what it was for, because I had only been there like a couple months before they kind of eliminated it. So I'm not helpful in that, but I know it was somewhat for disadvantaged kids, whether it be economically or academically, but I don't really have any other.
So my daughter attended it back at Black Rock. I think she was the first 8th grade batch. And so they basically just helped them to organize their work and things like that. That's really all that it was. So almost like an executive functioning skills class, like a homeroom. And she could always go to this class, let's say if she needed, if she didn't have something, or the teacher used to give them like a schedule of their homework every day. So it was almost like an organization skills support class. And I mean, she really liked it, and it really helped her because she was the first batch at Black Rock. But yeah, I was just wondering if that was something that's available, because my son would, love that.
I mean, they have study skills, right? Your kids have a study skills block.
Special, but that's different than, there is another program that my daughter had in 8th grade for some extra supports like that as part of her 504 plan. So I think talking with the counselor, if there seem to be kind of extra needs like that, or things that you think your kid would really benefit from, like just talk to the counselor and see. There's a lot of resources, and that not everybody either needs or accesses. So like I don't know that any parent knows like everything that's offered.
Sounds good. Thank you.
For kids going to BC, how much homework should we expect, or does it vary per, I guess, potting, grouping?
I'm sure it varies, but my son almost always gets everything done in school. Like at the end of their day, they have like this I&E period where they go back to homeroom and, you know, he can get almost everything done that he needs to. Like he has sometimes the IXL, and actually Spanish does Duolingo for homework, but it's been very minimal. I have heard that the kids who are in the fifth graders who are in the advanced math class do get homework, but I don't know how much. I just hear the kids complain about it. That could be 15 minutes. If it were my household, it would be enough to like set them over the edge. But mine has had very little. He gets everything done at school.
Jennifer, Jessica.
Yeah, I don't know. My son finishes it usually in I&E. So I think there's opportunities throughout the day. I guess it just depends on your student and the teacher, to be honest.
My son has reading homework, like ELA homework, that he has to actually do at home, maybe a couple times a week, but it's like reading comprehension and then answering a few like multiple choice questions about it. And math, it's like an hour a week, maybe, and sometimes they can get that done during school. So it's flexible more so than like this is what you have to do tonight. It's like do this by the end of the week. That seems to be the kind of homework, and only in math and ELA. So I don't think we've talked about this, but I think it's useful to know is that really math and ELA, at least at Blackrock, are the primary classes, and they have like an hour of study in each of those each day. And then science and social studies, they like switch off and they're shorter blocks, and maybe they're kind of incorporated, but they're not as significant classes in fifth grade, which maybe, you know, very similar to what they would just get in elementary school, because in some ways it is like still elementary school. It's not a problem. It's just something I didn't know.
Bernadette, how has the homework been?
I would say it's similar. It's no more than a half hour, I would say. If she doesn't get it done in school or she doesn't do anything in school, it's no more than a half hour. So it's been very, very manageable. Very different than when I grew up.
So you guys talk about if they didn't get it done in school. Can you talk a little bit about the I&E period, which I'm assuming is at the end of the day for each of the schools, and what your students does during that day or during that time, or what their options are during that time?
Sure. Well, my daughter is on an IEP, so sometimes that's filled with other interactions with teachers. But for the past, I would say, month and a half, that's eased up a little bit, and she's been able to get her homework done. So for her, when she has the time, she gets it done during that class so that she doesn't have to get it done at home.
Okay. So some of her specialized instruction is done during the I&E time.
Correct.
Yeah. How about the rest of you guys?
I feel like I imagine it to be almost like what I had was study hall, right? Like, you know, that like you could go do something else, but like you're in your homeroom and you just have this time to do stuff. So my son, he's almost always in his homeroom just getting his work done, you know, so that he doesn't have anything to do when he comes home. The only place he has left to go do was that he joined Creative Writing Club, and the Creative Writing Club teacher offers creative writing I&E times for the challenge kids. And my son isn't in challenge, but she invited him to join that. So she just like, so for a while he was every Wednesday going to do creative writing club or creative writing with those kids because that was fun for him, as just like a thing that he enjoyed. But if he hadn't shown up and had just done his homework, that would have been fine too.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, my son tells me he has to sign up. So he tries to get his math teacher because he liked them a lot. But I just think it's primarily where he gets all his work done.
I think you can get help in something if you need, like you can go kind of talk to your teacher and maybe you need to sign up for that, like if it's not your homeroom teacher or something. And you can kind of get, I didn't understand what we did in math today or something like that, a little extra support.
I think the reverse is true as well. I think that if a teacher
Mhm.
wants to speak to your child, they can request from their homeroom teacher to speak with your child as well. But I mean, at least I know at Black Rock, it's not just roving kids for their half an hour around the school. Like kids are expected to be in their homeroom and then, they move as they're expected in an orderly and or expected fashion. Like it's not a wander time. You have to sign up to go to another classroom. So. Someone was asking about parking for activities at the schools. So I guess the first time maybe people will in mass go to the schools, back to school night. What is kind of parking like at your schools for large activities? Is there parking lots? Do people have to park in the neighborhoods?
I mean, Valley Kentwood, I think you have to park in the neighborhood. Welsh Valley is similar. They do have parking lots, but if it's a full house, it's a full house. So you'd probably just have to park in the neighborhoods. I think Black Rock's a little different though.
Black Rock, there's kind of an upper parking lot that's right outside of the school, and then there's a side parking lot. I don't know that I've ever seen them more filled than that. I think they would probably direct people just around the building. There isn't really no other parking, off the campus.
So somebody was asking about what challenge was. Does anybody want to?
Challenge is like the kind of gifted, same thing as in elementary school that you test into if you have a GIEP.
And then someone was asking about, are there only 2 levels of math for grade 5?
I think so.
So I think they're about to change this for next year. But there's either grade level math, like 5th grade math, or kids that at the end of 4th grade, or
Tested into.
tested it. I don't know if tested it, but graded in, I guess, or achieved in a sense.
There's a whole rubric that they are pretty clear on of like what you need to do. And then one path you can work on if you don't quite meet the criteria, you can do summer bridge and work on it over the summer, or you just kind of meet the criteria automatically. Not automatically, but you meet the criteria and you can go into it.
Yeah, the default is going straight into 5th grade math. And then if the 4th grade teacher feels that there's some reason to do the advanced math, that's something you should talk to the 4th grade teacher about, I would say.
And then you do test in 5th grade again, because they're testing right now.
Yeah. To see if they need to be bumped up. So I think there's a lot of levels of and it doesn't seem to happen in other classes yet, but just for math, that it's kind of a constant reevaluation every year of, is my kid in the right class for his current state, or does he now need more of a challenge? And then there's a way to bridge him into that.
I think math is the only class that is leveled in middle school. Has different tracks. Every other class, all other subjects are just mixed. until you get to high school.
I think that's true. Guys, we've come upon over an hour of discussion about 5th grade. Ladies, is there anything else that you think we might have missed here that, or we should talk about a little bit more to help the 4th grade parents for next year?
I'll just touch on something that Jessica said, and that is speak to your counselor if you feel like your child needs extra help with something, because you don't know what all the resources are until you speak with them. So it's something I didn't do with my son until a little bit too late in the year. So it's just highly recommended. If you need something, ask for it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for the 5th grade transition. Cicely and I appreciate all of our participants. The questions were great. And stay tuned for Parent Ed for next year. We'll be coming up with a whole brand new list of topics.
And if you have any topics that you're interested in, we'd love to know about it. So you can send an email to either Robin or I, or send it to ISC, and we'll find out about it. So we're always open to new suggestions.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
So
evening.
much.
Thank you, participants. Take care.
Have a good night.